Hey folks, Carmen here from Urban Farm School. Today I wanted to shoot a short little video to talk to you about container gardening. Now some of you have seen some of the things I'm doing in my containers either through our open yard, eco yard tour activities or via some previous videos. But today I really wanted to focus on that concept because I think it's a fantastic strategy for urban environments, anywhere where you don't have soil to grow in. Now, a few years ago, we were handed this really precious opportunity on our property when our neighbors just to the southwest of us here, we're in a cul-de-sac, as some of you know, decided to take down 3 massive spruce trees in their front yard. And so that gave us this really fantastic area on our property. Sorry, that wind is blowing my hair in my face. Fantastic opportunity to utilize this newly bright, full 8 hours of sun area that we don't have any place on our property other than this front yard area. So it's an opportunity that we had to seize on. So I'm going to just turn my camera around and show you some of our front yard growing here. So we've got, quite a little operation here. We could actually expand it quite a bit, but this is a driveway that basically doesn't get used at all in the summer. I park my vehicle down there, but it gives us this great full sun opportunity to grow some really great heat-loving plants. And so when we think about the amount of production that we've gotten off of this area, it's pretty gobsmacking. Now, many of you know that I've got a front yard forest garden here in the front yard, but these are all planted in actual soil. This area here is all container growing. So of course there are tons of strategies for success for container growing, and I do teach quite a few container growing classes each year because we do live in an urban environment and lots of folks do not have access to actual growing beds. So this is a great chance for me to demonstrate how successful container growing can be. So some people might look at having to grow in containers as a liability. I look at it as a great opportunity. So this year I scored this fun old wheelbarrow from my neighbor Doris, who was having a garage sale. I put some succulents, some sedums in here. In the winter I'll just roll this up the driveway and tuck it away for the winter, and hopefully these guys are going to do all right in here. This is a total experiment and we'll see how it goes. And then over here I had these old planters in my backyard which weren't being used, and I thought, hey, let's try growing some Peruvian mint out here. Now I love this plant. It's a fantastic plant. It's actually a member of the marigold family and it loves the heat, so it's doing really well out here. And it's called huacate. It's a really highly prized medicinal plant, particularly for respiratory issues. So, my partner Christian loves this plant. We harvest all of these leaves in the fall, and we will. Oh, sorry, helicopter going over. Just gonna wait a second here. He's gone. We harvest these and keep the leaves for tea. So it's really great for tea. So we've actually got one growing in the greenhouse that's already hit the roof. And then some of you know how much I love artichokes, so this became my little artichoke farm area. Now these guys have done really well this year. I've harvested a ton of artichokes for my dinners, which I adore. And now these are starting to get a little long in the tooth now. It's the first day of September, and you can see that they're opening up quite a bit. So I think most of these I'm just going to let bloom, leave them alone, and they produce just the most beautiful flowers that the bees adore. So they're going to be their role from now on in here. But what I really wanted to talk about when it came to strategies were these buckets. Now these are fairly good sized buckets, and one of the things that I would like to encourage you when it comes to container growing is to grow in the biggest container you can find. The reason I suggest that is it's really important to have a certain core area that maintains a moisture core. Because as you can imagine, in containers, the sides are always exposed to the sunlight. And so the soil inside dries very quickly. And so when we have that dry soil, we lose the activities of our soil microbes. We want to make sure those little dudes are happy. So one strategy is to mulch heavily. Now this is some coconut fiber that was gifted to me, so I've got about 3 to 4 inches of that on here. And it's not doing it now, but earlier in the season, this soil was having a tendency to pull away from the side of the bucket. So that's not ideal, because what happens is that when you go to water your plant, the water will want to take the path of least resistance, of course, and it will always want to go down the sides of the buckets rather than absorb into the soil initially. So as you can tell, we're on sort of a sloped driveway. So one strategy we used was to put some wooden shims down below to try to level that out so that the water doesn't just naturally try to follow the slope and head down the driveway and leave our property, which we absolutely don't want. The other strategy I used this year is I was able last year to score a bale of dirty sheep's wool. Now this is a 4 by 4 by 4 bale of compressed sheep's wool that came from the butt area of the sheep, and so it actually has about 3% nitrogen in it, because the wool itself has that, and then there was the additional benefit of having a little extra manure attached to that. And what I did is I incorporated some of that right into the soil itself. I mixed it in. I sort of broke it apart and mixed it in as an experiment to see how well the wool would actually improve the water holding capacity of this soil. So it really is just additional organic matter, but wool itself will hold actually quite a bit of water when it's wet. And so I really found that indeed did seem to help a lot when it came to being able to hold on to water in these black buckets. You can imagine how much these heat up in the sun. But next year, what I'm going to experiment with, different strategy, is all along the sides of these buckets, I'm actually going to line it with a couple inches of that wool. Just a nice big batting of that wool all the way around. Add the soil in gently as I go, so that from top to bottom, I've got this insulative area here, which I think will really, really help prevent that pullback from the inside edge, and allow this soil to hang on to much more moisture. So, but this mulch makes such a big difference in preventing the loss of water from your soil. So you're reducing evaporative loss. So that's a strategy for container gardening that works super well, and I'm excited to experiment with the sheep's wool again next year. So another thing that we did in this area is we created this potato tower. Now it's the end of the season for these potatoes. These are a short season variety, so they're starting to look a little wilty right now. But what we did is basically placed a cage over top of a feed bucket. I just stuck it there because it was sitting there, so I put it on top. But then we produced 6-inch layers of mulch and compost mixed together, a few seed potatoes in the middle, another 6 inches, so on and so forth. And I was watering as I went along until I got to the very top. And occasionally this needs a little watering. Actually, it's much better if there's actually, if it doesn't slope outward, if it actually slopes inward, the water will have a tendency to go back down towards the middle. But the great thing about this is a strategy that you can use anywhere. So obviously we're on my driveway, but you could easily do this on a balcony if you absolutely love potatoes, just making sure that you've got a good pan on the bottom to hang on to the water so it doesn't end up on your neighbor's balcony below you. So, but it's a great strategy, and the best part is, because it's soilless, you can just push this whole thing over in the fall and harvest your potatoes and then put it back together, which is really fun. So another thing we decided to do is experiment with these horse watering troughs. Now, we knew we weren't going to be moving these. All of these containers here get moved to the side up against the bushes in the winter. In the event that I want to pull my car up on the driveway during the winter in order to plug it in if we get really super cold temperatures. These we knew we were not going to move, and we couldn't. Even if we tried, we'd have to empty them. And honestly, they're a little bit pricey, but we knew they were going to be here for a while. We didn't want to be rebuilding them with wood, so we decided to just go with these and do an experiment. Because honestly, we get a ton of folks asking us, what do you think about the horse troughs? And of course, I've never tried them, so but we're really, really pleased with the kind of production that we're getting off of these beautiful Roma tomatoes. I think some of you have seen me show you these before in a previous video, but they're doing super, super well in here. And then also look at these self-seeded petunias. They were in here last year in these things, and they just kind of threw their seeds over the edge. It's really sweet. But back over here, I'm just going to walk through this little tomato tunnel here. Also in these feed buckets, we've got these raspberries. These are a golden raspberry. Now they've been in here for a little over 5 years now. And I think this fall we'll probably thin these out because they're probably getting a little crowded in there. But these have overwintered. So, thinking about perennials in containers, actually, there's quite a few that do quite well. So the raspberries are one of them. They just seem to be surviving anything. So one thing that I'd like to talk about quickly in this video is the soil composition in these containers. It's quite different than growing in the ground, because one of the challenges with growing in containers is that the soil dries out so quickly. So one strategy that we use to prevent that is we only use, in composition wise, half actual garden soil. That gives us our sand, silt, and clay and all the wonderful minerals that come with that, and the microbes as well, and then half organic matter. So we're using compost, sea soil, lots of shredded leaves and that sort of thing, all mixed in here in order to create this fantastically effective soil sponge. Now that's absolutely key when dealing with container growing. And then the other thing we do, because it is a closed system, is we make sure that we've got plenty of minerals in here. So we'll use either something like azomite, which has a really, really fantastic wide range of minerals, or something like Gaia Green Organic 444, which is basically a fantastic mineral blend with all kinds of micro and macronutrients in it as well. So we'll utilize those and make sure that those minerals are in the system, right? And that they're in good supply. And then we want to make sure we've got the right kind of microbes in there. So we will always, always, always use biological inoculants in our soil and around our plant roots at planting time as well. So we like to use something called Earth Alive Soil Activator and Mike's for fruits and veg. And that works really, really well in container growing and gives these guys pretty well all they need for the season. So you can see all of these are annual crops that we're growing in these containers on the front driveway here. But over on this side, and that does include these raspberries here, we've also got asparagus in a large raised planter, and those roots the roots have access to the soil below. And then we've got some Red River raspberries here, which have produced like crazy this year and are also going to give us a second flush. You can see the berries at the top there. So pretty exciting to see how container growing can produce such a wonderful yield. And this, when you think about it, this was a wasted space before. It was just a driveway that was basically a space for a vehicle. But now, thanks to these strategies, we're able to get a ton of production off of this wonderful area. So I would strongly encourage you to consider some strategies to use the space that you've got, and that whether you've got a driveway area, sorry, it's really hot, driveway area like this, or you've got a balcony or a small deck or a porch, wherever you can grow, there are plenty of strategies for success that can be had utilizing container growing, as long as you get it right. So thanks, folks, for allowing me to share my container gardening area with you today. Do check us out online at urbanfarmschool.ca and let us know how we can support you in living more sustainable, beautiful, and connected lives. Take care, folks. Bye.